I guess I've recognized it my whole life. So if you think about HIV and who gets infected with HIV, it's often marginalized populations. But as I started to write the book, it sort of dawned on me how almost every chapter you could pull out the marginalized population that was increased risk for emerging infection. Today's day and age, we're talking about Zika, right? In the marginalized population, there are poor pregnant women in Brazil. So Brazil has about 1.1 million cases, I think is what they're calculating now, of Zika virus, and over 1,500 women who have been infected and their babies have gotten congenital Zika syndrome. And this is a severe illness of babies where they get small brains, other developmental disabilities, including hearing loss and vision problems. And what we've learned now is Zika is essentially a laser-guided missile for neurons. It looks for your neuron cells and it kills your neuron cells. And it's not just true in babies. So when Zika was first described, what we were told was, yeah, about 20% of people will get sick. And if they get sick, they'll get a fever, they'll get a little headache, they'll get some itching, some red eyes, and they'll get better. Then very quickly it became clear that this was a problem for pregnant women. But now we know even for adults, because of this sort of laser-like focus on neuronal cells, we have this disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. So this is a neurologic illness that causes weakness. And we also know that even in a healthy person, Zika virus can cause brain inflammation and inflammation of the coverings around your brain. So even in what we should think otherwise normal healthy adults who are not pregnant, this virus is a problem. This virus shouldn't be a problem, okay? The virus is spread by something called Aedes aegypti. It's a certain type of mosquito. This mosquito is not new to us. This is the exact same mosquito that spreads yellow fever that causes about 30,000 deaths a year. This is the exact same mosquito that spreads dengue. And if we were having this conversation about 5 years ago, we would be talking about this large dengue outbreak that's occurring in South America. This is the exact, and dengue causes, I think, about 30,000 deaths a year, something around that. This is the same exact mosquito that causes chikungunya virus. That was the big thing in the news 2-3 years ago. That one doesn't seem to cause any deaths. But because of the failure since the 70s to keep up with these efforts to decrease mosquitoes and kill mosquitoes, and not paying attention to the people dying from yellow fever, the people dying from dengue, now all of a sudden we're all up in arms that, oh, we have a disease due to Aedes aegypti that seems to be infecting pregnant women. So there's this lack of action over the last 40, 50 years against a known threat that has put us in this current position, at least if you happen to be in South America these days. And I heard yesterday that Zika now has not just moved throughout the Americas, but is now at Cape Verde. So it's essentially knocking on the door of Africa to say, hi, I'm next, you're next. And so think about what's going to happen as that virus then sweeps through Africa and the risk to pregnant women there in Africa. And Margaret Chen, who's the head of WHO, brilliant woman, did some amazing work in her time in Hong Kong, has admitted a major policy failure over the last 40 years in addressing this mosquito. Also, she broadened it to talk about major policy failure as we think about protecting women and contraceptive rights for women, because this is a big issue in Brazil and other places where they don't have the same sort of contraceptive rights as you take for granted here in the United States and other parts of the Western world. So why did it take all this time, people dying of dengue, people dying of yellow fever, which is a vaccine, to all of a sudden say, oh, you know what, we need to pay attention because now we may get some cases in Europe and in North America of women who may have this disease. We will see Zika in the United States, so I'll preempt that question. Hopefully we will not see a whole lot of cases, but we will likely see it.